Welcome back to BNG Hockey, where it's always black and gold. Don Sweeney still has a lot to do this offseason, but he checked off another box today by giving Jack Studnicka a new contract. Let's talk about it. The team signed Studnicka to a 2-year contract with a cap hit of $762,500 per season. This deal is set up in a pretty interesting way. It's a 2-way contract for the 2022-23 season and a 1-way contract for the 2023-24 season, and he will once again be an RFA at the end of this deal. Speaking of RFAs, now that they've signed Jack Studnicka, the Bruins only have one remaining RFA in Pavel Zacha. For those of you who need a refresher on Jack Studnicka, he's a 23-year-old 6'2" right-shot centerman, originally selected in the second round of the 2017 NHL Draft, 53rd overall. He had another impressive AHL season with the Providence Bruins last year. In 41 games, he had 10 goals, 25 assists for a total of 35 points. That did earn him a call-up to the NHL. Last season, he played in 15 games for the Bruins, but the production once again was not there. In 15 games with the Bees, he had 0 goals, 3 assists for a total of 3 points. His entire NHL career consists of 37 games played, and he scored 1 goal, 6 assists for a total of 7 points. He's had plenty of impressive AHL seasons, but once he gets that call-up, the production just isn't there. Now, I continue to think a big factor for this is when he does get called up to the NHL, he's mostly played wing instead of his natural center position. And when he's with Providence, he plays center a majority of those games. And I do think that impacts his overall play. I have always been a big fan of Jack Studnicka's game, and I keep hoping and praying that he'll finally have a breakout season. And I do think during this 2-year contract, we could finally see that. But I do want to mention one potential roadblock that's really frustrating me. Now, if you've been with the channel long enough, you know I am not the biggest David Krejci fan, and all of these rumors of him coming back are starting to annoy me. One, I don't like that he isn't back already, and I know that the Bruins have to figure out that cap space, but I do wonder if there's any second thoughts on Krejci's side, and honestly, I'd be okay if he didn't come back. Now, I know some Bruins fans are going to call me crazy, but hear me out. It was so frustrating watching a random guy like Erik Haula get to play between Hall and Pastrnak last season. Now, bringing Krejci back, he would probably do even better than Haula did this season, but I don't think Krejci will stay any more than one more season for one last kick at the can. Adding David Krejci I don't think makes you a cup contender. Yes, it would be nice to make the playoffs, but I would much rather see a guy like Jack Studnicka finally get a legit shot at playing his natural position at the NHL with some talent around him. You're paying him $700,000 for the next 2 seasons, so if you get any kind of production out of him, that's an absolute steal, and maybe you could actually develop a guy who can help you for the future, because David Krejci is going to come back, put up 50 to 60 points, the Bruins will lose in the second round of the playoffs, and Krejci will be gone, and next year we'll need a center again. I would much rather see the Bruins start developing some young guys, maybe even a guy like a Pavel Zacha, then go with some veteran guys for a couple seasons, do a little patchwork along the way, and then once again we need centers for the future. A big reason why I think Jack Studnicka could have a breakout season in the next couple of years is the coaching change. I know that can be a little overrated at times, but if Bruce Cassidy had a doghouse, it was definitely Jake DeBrusk at 1 and Jack Studnicka not far behind, probably at number 2. Bruce was very frustrated by this player and his lack of production at the NHL level, and I think that really hurt his development. Now having a player-friendly guy like Jim Montgomery and a fresh slate for Jack Studnicka, I think that could really help him. Whether or not he gets to play center remains to be seen. As I said, if you bring David Krejci back, you're likely going to have Patrice Bergeron back. Charlie Coyle is best fit as your third-line center. I hate Coyle's game when he plays wing. You just brought in Pavel Zacha. You have Thomas Nosek and Trent Frederick and John Beecher. The list goes on at center, which is kind of funny because I think the Bruins desperately need centers, but Jack Studnicka might have to play wing once again, and that's okay. Even though I think he's better off playing center, I would like to see him get a legit shot at the NHL level. Maybe while Marchand's out, he could play on the right side of Jake DeBrusk and Patrice Bergeron, play with some skilled players, get some time in the top 6, and build up his confidence. And if things just aren't working out and Studnicka continues to show the same level of play, it might just be time for a change of scenery, and the Bruins could use him as a pretty big trade chip. I still think he'd have some interest out there. He's a young player with upside on a very movable contract, but I don't think Sweeney wants to do that. I still think they see him as one of their top prospects and a big part of their future, and they really need this kid to pan out because their draft history hasn't been the best. And Bruins fans should be rooting for that as well. You don't just want to bury him in the minors or trade him for nothing. The best thing for the Bruins is if this player can become an NHL regular. The Bruins need to get younger, faster, and with this current cap situation, they need to get cheaper, and Studnicka brings all of that. So let me know your thoughts. What do you think of Studnicka's new deal, and do you think he could finally break out as a full-time NHLer? Leave that down below in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a big like, and if you haven't already, subscribe.